นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนุตรังปัจจายังนัมมัสสามิ There's an interesting book published a year or two ago called The Golden Road in a historian called William Dalrymple, who's written some very good books. He argued that the trade between India and Europe far exceeded that between China and Europe, and that the importance of the so-called Silk Road has been greatly overestimated and the importance of the Indian trade underestimated. And certainly, time of the Buddha was already a considerable trade. And that trade was partly facilitated by the prevailing winds, which means that it, from west coast of India, sailing to the Middle East, it takes quite a short time. It's huge trade. And there are historical records from ancient Rome was saying that the whole economy is going to, the Roman economy is going bust, going bankrupt because of their women's desire for Indian silks. So certainly by the time of King Asoka, there were quite a lot of contact between India and the West. And there was some interesting parallels between groups of Greek philosophers, particularly the Stoics. And I have a favorite story of one of the great Stoics. I think he was one of the Stoics. Lived a very simple life and lived outside. It's a cold winter morning, and the king came and stood over him, and he said, "I have a lot of faith in you. I'll give you anything you want. You ask, and it's yours. And is there anything you want?" And he said, "Yes, there is one thing." So what is it? He said, "Can you move like about a foot to the right because you're blocking the sun and it's a very cold morning?" So that was the sort of the Stoic idea. And there was one mysterious group of monastics in Egypt who were known as the therapeutes, and they gave their name to words like therapy. And there seems quite some likelihood that thera, as in therapy, comes from Thera, like in Theravada, that these were in fact Buddhist monks. So the influence of Buddhism has been there from very early days, and similarly the influence of the West, and particularly the Greeks, is only now really being fully appreciated. You're the very first generation of stupas at Sanchi, for example. If any of you've been there, you'll know that the stone carvings depicting events in the life of the Buddha at these stupas do not depict the Buddha. They just leave a space where the Buddha would be, because it's considered inappropriate to represent the Buddha in some sculpted form. So this is before the advent of Buddha rupas and Buddha images. And in those bas relief, in those artistic representations, there are Westerners called Yonians represented. And in the lists of donors which are carved around the dintel, number of Greek householders who have donated. Right, so Buddhism already international religion by that time. And Buddhism, we can say, is like I would say the universal religion. And I say that based upon words like sabbe satta. So we're encouraged to have metta and compassion for all sentient beings. And we're so familiar with this word, we think we can overlook just how incredible and unprecedented. If you look at other religious traditions throughout history, they tend to be very kind of tribal. We're the chosen people, or we are this and we're that, and very tribal based, and divisive, we can say, and competitive, and also restricted to, if not one's own group, then to human beings. And yet the Buddha encouraged us to have metta, karuna for all living beings in every realm. He's the teacher of gods and humans, not just human beings. All beings that have sufficiently sophisticated consciousness to be able to understand the Dhamma. And the teachings of Lord Buddha are based upon human values, human truths, verifiable human truths, starting from the ground, working up, rather than starting off with some metaphysical principles or dogmas or unverifiable beliefs. So if you have a religious system based upon unverifiable dogmas, you're given, you have two choices, don't you? Either you believe or you don't. You can't go beyond those two choices. Because no matter how full of faith and how convinced you are of the truth of a dogma, it is, by its very nature, beyond your capacity to prove it's true. Whereas in Buddha Dhamma, the Buddha is saying that why is life like this? What is life like? Just starting off really down-to-earth kind of questions. And notice the ratio of questions to answers. Most philosophies and religions just want to stuff you full of answers, but the Buddha wants you to ask questions. And right from Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Anattalakkana Sutta, he's asking questions, are things permanent or impermanent? Are things which are impermanent, dukkha or sukha? Are things which are impermanent and dukkha appropriate to, fitting to be considered as me and mine? Constantly asking and inviting questions and praising good questions. Now this is our path. This is as Buddhists we should be questioning, and we should learn to develop the skill of asking good questions. I was recently reading something, on a sort of the topic of the day. What's left for human beings when AI takes over everything. And the author, I like the author's answer. He said, these large language models and AI models, they provide answers, but the human is answering questions. This is where we still have a role. To ask questions and to direct AI, or to direct the answering machines, and the ability to determine goals and to determine strategies to realize goals. But above all, as we cede more and more of our life and existence to amoral machines. So there's moral, immoral, and amoral. Because immoral means you have moral code, but you just can't keep it, or you don't want to keep it, but you recognize that there is such a thing. But with machines, then they're amoral. Morality doesn't mean anything to them. And so it's quite possible that this training in integrity and emotional maturity and the ability to say, I really like this, but I'm not going to do it because it's wrong, or I don't like this, but I can do it because it's right. And someone with that kind of moral backbone, which can be trained through Dhamma training, that may become more and more important in human society in the future. Who's going to have authority or power over amoral machines? Who would be the best people? Well, moral people. And by moral, we mean moral in the sense of Buddhist sense, someone who has seized morality as a training, not as like commandments from above, but it's something that arises naturally through wisdom and understanding of what is correct and incorrect, or that which leads to the long-standing welfare and happiness of all sentient beings. So Buddha's teaching, starting off with questions, encouraging us to ask questions, to look more closely, because the Buddha is saying that human suffering is not a function of a god or gods who are punishing us or rewarding us or testing us. We're not merely the toys of destiny and fate. And the Buddha says, look more closely. We suffer because we don't look. We don't see. So if you want to see, you have to look, and you have to develop the ability to look, because we don't like to look. Our mind's just jumping around all over the place. This is why we need to learn how to direct attention, sustain attention. We need to develop a resilience and being able to tolerate boredom and lack of stimulation. We have to embrace boredom, as it were. It's all right. I mean, boredom's just a recognition there's not much going on at the moment. That's all it is. But where it becomes defilement is I don't want it to be like this. So the Buddha's saying we suffer as human beings because we don't see clearly. So we have avijja. So this usually translated as ignorance, isn't it? But avijja means like a lack of vijja, or a lack of clear seeing. And that often manifests as false seeing, deluded seeing. And whenever there is ignorance and a lack of clear seeing and understanding, that manifests as tanha, as craving. So craving is the desire that arises in the ignorant mind. So it's conditioned. It's not something you just have to put up with. And so seeing this link between dukkha and craving, the three kinds of craving which are manifestations of ignorance, this is absolutely central to our Dhamma practice. As I was saying, Ajahn Chah set up his monastery in a way which was frustrating. He was interested in frustrating us because there's so much to learn from frustration. Is what frustration means. I want this and I'm not getting it, and and I should get it, or I have a right to get it, or it's not fair, or all these ways we have of saying, "Give it to me now, okay?" And I would say, yeah, you like with daily life in the monastery, we get up just before 3 usually, and have to walk through the forest to the Dhamma hall, be there 3, and sitting and chanting and meditation, and then clean up, and then off on alms round, which could be 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 kilometers, and big bowls. These are really big bowls in those days, and sticky rice. You had a big bowl full of sticky rice. It's heavy, and if you're a young monk, then you carry the Ajahns as well. So you have to wear 2 robes as well, one on top of each other. So it's already like 7 o'clock. You start to sweat, and you come back with these 2 big bowls, right? And it's hard work. And then you all know what it's like with painful feet as well. With all the, it's like the worst possible news is when they're redoing the road, and they're putting all this new gravel down on the road, and you get back, and then you're hungry, and then you empty your bowl, and all the food goes to the kitchen, and then you sit meditation, and it's real struggle to keep awake because you haven't eaten for 24 hours, and you've been up since nearly before 3 o'clock, and you've walked a few kilometers, and you carry these heavy bowls, and after about an hour or something, then the food arrives. The nuns bring the food over from the kitchen in these carts, and And then the monks, you have to get up in those days and distribute the food. So you had absolutely no control, no choice over what food goes in your bowl. All the monks, almost, except for maybe 2 or 3 senior monks. And there's these big pots, and they look disgusting, you know. It's like, you don't want to know what's inside. So you're allowed to keep, when you come back from, you get your sticky rice and you make a ball of sticky rice. That's the one kind of thing you control, how much rice you have. And then there's these big pots. And then there's 2 monks, and you just go along the line and you go like this. Yeah, exactly. And when you get back, you know, it's like your rice ball is like a small island being attacked by climate change. Like it's like just the top of the ball, and it's just this mixture of all these greasy curries and everything's all mixed up together. But you're so hungry you don't care. And then you see all what comes up in the monks as they're carrying. You see some monks, they like, of course, likes and dislikes. So some monks see that there's something they really like, so they want to be the one that gives out that food to make sure they get in their bowl, you see. Other monks, there are things they really don't want in their bowl, and so they want to be the one that distributes that and make sure that they don't get that in their bowl. And then there are monks who really like something, but they're a bit embarrassed about it. So they put kind of a lot, and they put a lot in everybody else's bowl, so it doesn't look so obvious. And so by the time it comes to the people at the end of the line, there's none left. Yes. And I remember once I got back to my bowl when I was first there, and I said to my friend, there's red ants in my bowl. And he said, no, they're not red ants. I said they're red ants. He said, no, if they're alive, they're called red ants. If they're dead, they're called sour ants. Oh, I see. And anyway, so even despite all this, you know, you're so hungry, and then the lay people who'd come to offer the meal would be sitting outside. There's a long, if you've been to Wat Pah Pong, you know, there was in those days, it's different from today. There was a very long, thin building. You maybe seen photographs of it. And the monks sit like along this and looking at each other. But you couldn't see the lay people. They're behind you, outside, or concealed by the window. And Ajahn would sort of say hello and chat to them and for a while, and then if it was like particularly tough, like you've been up all night, so on every one prat, you don't sleep, so you've been up all night as well, so you're especially exhausted. And those are the days, mornings, where he'd talk for a really long time to people. And he had this thing he'd do, like when he stopped talking, just to let everybody know it's time for the blessing. He said, okay. And so we'd all, oh, thank goodness. And then sometimes we're all like this, and then he starts talking again, you know, and you're like there. It's like that. So he said, I know you want, like, it'd be so rare to have something hot. It's like a real treat. I mean, when I was a young monk, like, everything was cold. The rice would be cold. Most of the curries, by the time you got to eat them, were cold. And I can remember just, wow, what a treat it was to have something hot sometimes, especially in the cold season. I never thought it'd be cold in Thailand. But when you have shaved head and very thin cotton robes and bare feet, and it gets down to 11, 12 degrees sometime in the forest, you're shivering in the morning, and something hot's really pleasant. So he would say, I know you want it hot. I'm going to give it to you cold. Yeah. I know you want it fast. I'm going to give it to you slow. Yeah. And so you can see this way of training and teaching. It depends a lot on your feelings towards the Ajahn. It's not something that any teacher can do. You have to have that faith that he's not a sadist, basically. He's not just like his idea of fun. He's doing it for your own good, and really did believe that. And so I found in the early days that Wat Pong, that not understanding the language wasn't such a great obstacle to me as I might have thought. I mean, certainly I was very diligent, and I worked very hard to learn Thai, and I learned it quite quickly. But even when I didn't understand, it was more his example that was important to me. And this conviction I had from the very first time that I met him, that this is an arahant, I tried to. I wrote a poem. You probably read it in the back of Stillness Flowing, where it's like, if you'd only ever in your life you'd only ever seen plastic flowers, and you thought that's what a flower is, and then someday you like a fresh flower. You say, this is a flower, and it was like, this is a human being, this is how human beings really can be. And it's just amazing, that kind of revelation. Or if you've only ever heard music produced by tone-deaf people, or people who have no sense of pitch, or and then one day you hear the master, and that's music. That's what music's supposed to be like. So it's not like it's something special or in excess of. It's just the sense of everything you thought was normal and how human beings are. It's not. This is a kind of a deformed level of humanity, and that just to see, one person like that, it changes your whole view and vision. It was just like the first time they discovered a black swan. They always thought that swans are white, and nobody realized you could have black swans, and just to see that there is the human capacity for wisdom and compassion and integrity. It's not a myth, or it's not something that perhaps was possible 2,000 years ago in India. But there are people today, there is this person today who is a witness and is the proof that this is a timeless teaching. Because it's not a matter of a philosophy or a metaphysics, but it's based upon human truths, human body, human mind, these do not change. They say the things that make somebody greedy or lustful or angry or jealous may be different in content, but the essence of the mental state is not. It's no different at all. So when we're studying Dhamma, so many people will ask, Western monks like myself or Thai monks come to that. What was Ajahn Chah's teaching? What was it that impressed you so much? It wasn't so much a teaching; it was he himself that was so impressive, and the fact that when he said something, it went right to your heart, to the extent that you wouldn't ever forget it. I was reflecting on this a day or two ago. I mean, one of the highlights of my life, I can say, was I was at Wat Nanachat, and Ajahn Chah came to visit, and he went on an inspection tour. And I could speak some Thai by now. And I spoke some Thai, and I mispronounced. I got the wrong tone on the word for window. And he corrected my pronunciation. I've never been so proud in my life, That word, it's just enshrined in my, that my mispronunciation should have registered in the mind of an arahant, and that it should sufficiently have moved the arahant mind to the degree that he was kind enough to correct me. Wow, it's like something is unbelievable. And I when he started to fall ill, he went up to sort of escape all of the lay people and on kind of retreat at this monastery called Tam Sangpet. It's about 100 kilometers or so away from Wabapong. That's where he gave a number of this famous teachings, this stillness flowing, or water which is both still and flowing. Was a Dhamma talk he gave, that rains retreat. And also when he referred to himself as like a block of ice out in the sun, and how he's just felt it's like melting away. And so we built a new kuti for him, and we'd all been at this kuti, and then we were in a walk. It was just like a rocky outcrop, and walk across the rocks back to the sala. And I was in a small group he had a walking stick, and we were around 5 or 6 monks around. I was just to his left side. You see, his right hand, he was holding his walking stick. And he stumbled, and he grabbed my arm. And then for the rest of that walk, he had his walking stick, and I was on the other side. I thought, I want to do this for the rest of my life. This is it. This is the acme, the sort of the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me in my life. So this, in this world we're talking so much about the digitalization of everything, and AI, and education with iPads, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's this human connection, that's really what's most profound, and it stays with you, and it uplifts you and inspires you. And but having said that, I was surprised when I had this kind of emotional reaction to this first time when I came into his presence. I'd been in Udon and spent some days at Ajahn Mahaboor's monastery, and I was treated with great kindness there, and I had so much respect for, of course, for Dhamma Mahaboor, but nevertheless, I knew that wasn't going to be where I would spend my life as a monk, and I caught this local bus, and it came all the way along the Mekong River from Udon, and hours and hours and hours, from like 6 o'clock or something in the morning to late afternoon. Arrived in Ubon, and I didn't know where Wat Bapong was, and couldn't speak the language, but I got on a bus and just hoped for the best, and found myself at this little crossroads, and quite near to Wat Bapong. Started to walk, and then a car came in the other direction, and that was very unusual in those days. This is like in the 70s. And the car stopped, and you wound down windows in those days, like this. You wound down the window, and it was this young woman. There were 3 young women, and they spoke English. And they said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Wat Bapong." He said, "Would you like to come with us?" I said, "Yes." And they took me. So I didn't know Devas could drive cars, so I was quite impressed, and so that's my assumption. I got to the monastery, and I walked into the gate, and I met a Western monk, and he said, "Who are you? Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm a disciple of Ajahn Sumedho, and I've come from England and come to ordain." And I hadn't shaved my head. So he said, "This is for some..." He said, "Well, before you go and see Luang Por, I'll shave your head for you." So he went to his kuti and he shaved my head. And the monks had just finished the Patimokkha. It was the full moon day of December 1978. And so I went with this monk, and Luang Por Chah was sitting underneath his kuti with a group of monks and having some discussion. And he was drinking some herbal drink like this. And so I bowed, and then he asked this monk, "Who's that?" And he said his name's Sean, and he's come from Ajahn Sumedho in England. And Ajahn Chah looked at me, and he said, so I crawled across the floor, and then he gave me his drink. Oh, that was so Ajahn Sumedho says that's when Ajahn Jayasaro fell in love with Ajahn Chah. So that was probably the case. So I didn't get any so many teachings as such. I mean, I got one teaching when I was still wearing white and I was sweeping, and he came on one of his inspection tours, and so I could speak a few words. So my name was Sean, and he couldn't pronounce that, so he called me Chong, which means spoon. So I said, spoon. What? Sabai mai. So he was like, "So, are you okay? Are you comfortable?" And I said, "Sabai krap." And then he said, "Sabai di mai." And when he say something like this, he'd have this kind of look in his eyes, kind of twinkle in his eye, and he'd say, "Sabai di mai?" And I said, "Sabai di krap." And then his face changed and it got very stern, and he said, "Sabai di mai di." and then he walked off. And what just happened? You know, I mean, did I say the wrong thing? And I know. I mean, I know this word sabai, and I know this word sabai-di, and I've said that lots of times, and I got quite a good response. And so, you know, he'd do this, and then he could teach you, you know, just 2 or 3 words, and you go away, and then you try and work out, well, what could that possibly mean? And so I mean, I was never verified, but my interpretation was, yeah, I'm a bit too sabai. You know, I'm very adaptable. I know how to be happy and content in most situations. And so sabai is okay, but sabai-di is maybe, look, you're an anagarika, you're a pakao, your mind is still chock-a-block full of defilements. If you're sabai-di, then, you know, there's things you're not looking at. You're taking it too easy. That was my interpretation. But the teaching that he gave most often in the first year or 2, and one which I've used ever since, and you may have heard, is tuk pra kit pit. So again, just like 4 words, and just it's like Thai language is a confluence of like a tonal Chinese language, monosyllabic language, which is mixed with Pali and Sanskrit words, which tend to be longer and more kind of flowery. But because it is possible to speak in using the Chinese-rooted words, the original Thai words, if you like, that is part of the reason why that his way of teaching was so direct. So it's somewhat of a function of the language as well as his genius. So you can say very profound things in very simple words in Thai, in a way you can't in English. And so tuk means dukkha, pra means because, and kit pit means like wrong thinking. So dukkha from wrong thinking. And so this is what as they say, you want it hot, I'll give you cold. You want it fast, I'll give you slow. You want it convenient, I'm going to give you inconvenient. You know, you want to be close to me, I'm going to send you on the other side of the country. And so where is the dukkha? This is always the emphasis. Look, what is the dukkha? Where's the dukkha? And what is the craving? What is the defilement that lies behind the dukkha? And many of you will remember Luang Por Sumedho's anecdote of him sweeping leaves also, and getting very frustrated because he's very dedicated meditator, and he wants to put some time into his meditation, and he's got to sweep leaves. And the moment you sweep leaves, more leaves come down, and it's just never ending, and it's hot, and you're sweeping leaves, and you get sweaty, and then the mosquitoes come, and so he was getting pretty fed up with it. And I didn't become a monk to sweep leaves, right? And then Ajahn Chah arrives, and with that kind of sort of twinkly look in his eyes, Sumedho, is Wat Bapong suffering? Is that the source of your suffering? Wat Bapong? Is that what's going on? And of course, you only just need just a little reminder like that. I mean, certainly for someone like Luang Por Sumedho, no, it's because I don't want to do what I'm doing right now. This is the vibhava tanha. And as I mentioned earlier in the Q&A, having this special activities like sitting and walking, where you have a certain amount of control to what extent you're going to look at unpleasant conditions, physical pain or whatever, enables you to identify the particular kinds of the expressions of vibhava tanhas can express itself as anxiety and fear, resentment, stress, so on and so forth. You see what you're adding on to the unpleasantness, which is just there naturally. And then be able to see that in daily life, and in this, like sweeping leaves in a hot, humid climate with lots of mosquitoes, and when there's something you would much rather be doing, then this is exactly the practice, because you're seeing how you're creating that vibhava tanha. I don't want this, I don't need this right now, I would be far better off doing that and doing this, and reckon, this is where the dukkha arises. And when often when bhikkhus in the time of the Buddha were traveling, walking around, they would be asked by members of other sects, okay, you're disciples of Samana Gautama, what is his teaching? Why are you monks? What are you practicing for? What's the goal of your practice? And the most common answer, and the one which the Buddha himself praised, was, we are practicing for the full comprehension of dukkha. And so the full comprehension of dukkha means how dukkha is conditioned by sensual desire, sensual craving, the craving to become. So that all the cravings around the sense of self, to be somebody, to be loved, to be respected, to be seen, to be known, to be, and to maintain this and hold on to things that you like and not let them. All these things are necessary, or one or at least one of them necessary for there to be suffering. Otherwise, there's merely discomfort. So it's a joint production. You have the trigger, you have the stimulus, something which is encouraging greed, or encouraging negativity, or encouraging doubt and confusion and delusion, but without that answering craving, without the two of those two things coming together, there's no dukkha. So when you see or you accept that the full comprehension of dukkha, understanding how dukkha arises and passes away, you can see that sweeping leaves on a hot, sticky day is every bit as valid and useful a practice as sitting with your eyes closed. Because what are you trying to do, sitting with your eyes closed? To understand how dukkha arises and passes away. There's sort of one particular, a very kind of focused way of doing it, profound way. But if you're in a disagreeable situation, and that might be, as they say, sweeping leaves in a very hot, humid forest full of mosquitoes, or dealing with difficult people in an office in Bangkok or in Shanghai or wherever it might be, it's the same challenge, the challenge that there are things which are encouraging defilement, and to what extent you react to those with craving and ignorance, and to what extent you can learn how to let go. So this word, let go, is a kind of a very popular word, and because it sounds kind of good, doesn't it? Just let go, and you just feel kind of nice, don't you? To let go, and but what does it actually mean? And Luang Por Chah's his explanation of this, which I really like, is he said, letting go is letting go within the action. Okay, it's not in letting go of; it's letting go within. So that's this is a different point than what things you should be involved in. So there is this sila and sense restraint and so on are giving you boundaries for what you are involving yourself with. But if you're doing something which is correct and appropriate, whether it's to do with family matters or work, career matters, and whatever, and then there is stress and tension and so on, then the vibhava tanha comes up, and I don't need this right now. I don't want this. It's too much, and it's can be a panic come up. Feel overwhelmed, and then there can be this. I'll just let go, and it kind of feels kind of Buddhist, doesn't it? Yeah, I'll just let go. But it's really just giving a very positive spin on what is basically just, I don't want this, go away. So the Ajahn Chah was saying, you let go within the action. And what are you letting go of? You say that you're always, just as you're always mindful of something, you're not just being mindful. You have to have an object. Mindfulness is not a kind of a free-floating virtue. Similarly, you can't just let go without saying, letting go of what and for what. And the letting go is letting go of sense of self and me and mine. So when we're in the midst of pressures and temptations and so much going on, then the practice of letting go is letting go of this me, they don't appreciate me, they're taking advantage of me, or is it always like this? I'm such a failure, I'm not good enough, you poor thing. It's just more noise, more stuff in your head, and you don't have to do that. As I say, are you good enough to say a kind word to somebody? Are you good enough to perform a kind action? Yeah, of course you are. So that's good. That's good enough, really. And you can be even better. So, seeing these noises and voices in your head, and recognizing a thought as a thought. Thought's not a memory. A thought's not an enemy. You see, but you understand a thought is a thought, and a memory is a memory, and just seeing. And there's the Thai word is really good here. It's one of my favorite phrases. Ru Tao Tan. So Ru means to know. Tao means like the full extent of something. In all of its dimensions. That's Ru Tao. And Tan means in real time. It doesn't mean like you kind of understand afterwards, but you're abreast of what's happening. You're there, so you know both the full dimensions and the complexity or lack of complexity or whatever's going on. That's Ru Tao, and rutan, it's you're right there at the time when you're experiencing that thing. So this is if you study Ajahn Chah's teaching, you'll hear this phrase a lot, Ru Tao Tan, and one of my favorite phrases, and another Ajahn Chah phrase, Ko Khe Nan Le. Ko Khe Nan Le. Ko Po Pan An is like, that's Isan, and Thai is like, Ko Khe Nan Le. It's just that much. It's not anything more. It's not anything. It's just that much, And don't put so much on top of it. It's just that much. So being able to see things as just that much, and being able to ru tao tan, to have that kind of awareness where the dimensions, the details, the overall appearance, there's that sense fullness of perception and timeliness of perception. And then the I and mine, it doesn't have any ground in which to arise except as something that sort of rises and passes away, just like a bird sound outside the room. So enough for this evening, I think. Thank you.
การโอกาสครับอันดมยังธรรมกถาสาธุกรังทธามเสสาธุสา